Hello, everyone. This is DM Bobbio, and I am so excited. I am announcing a project that I've been mulling over really for a couple of years now. Within a few months of starting to DM full time, I sort of conceived of this project, and time enough has passed and tumblers have fallen into place. So I'm excited to share with you the upcoming, well, now live product D&D event game campaign that I'll be running, and I'm sort of calling it Daily D&D with DM Bobbio. And what does that mean? Well, if you're familiar with Play by Post, now when I was young, back in the day on Thursdays, anytime an old person says it was back in the day, it was always a Thursday. I don't make the rules. How you doing, Blake? I see you. And anyway, back in the day, we did something called play by mail, like literally play by post, and not post like in a forum, like post like you put it in the mailbox. I had a conversation with a client on my Discord today about phone books. Anyway, that's not important. Then, of course, came forums, well, IRC chat, and then forums, and eventually Discord. And so Discord is a perfect place to play D&D, not just live. Obviously, my games I host all on Discord for voice and video, but because of the text channel capabilities and some other cool things in Discord, you can play D&D without video and without audio, text-based. And so if you're not familiar with the idea of play by post, let me give you the big picture, and then we'll look at some of the little picture, and then I want to show you what's going on, how it looks, how it works, and then I want to tell you a little about the campaign setting. I might change that order as I go, but to start with, play by post D&D is much more collaborative in terms of the storytelling element than most live D&D. Because of the format, you have time to be creative and devote some genuine thought to your next statement or your next move, your next decision. Certainly there's something awesome about playing D&D live and making those snap on the moment decisions, but play by post lets you in some ways become more immersive. Spend more time thinking about this character. How would this character really react in that situation, or what would they really say? And all those one-liners that you think of after the fact. They say, oh man, I should have thought of that when the game was still going on. Well, guess what? With play by post, you have time to do them. Not necessarily better than live D&D, right? But a viable alternative. Let's talk about some of the benefits of play by post, I think. There we are. Okay, so the reason that I hear most often folks that want to play by post is their schedules. It's not always easy to set aside 2 to 4 hours every week to play D&D. I do have some players that play several games with me each week, that their schedules and their lifestyles allow that, but not everybody has a schedule and a lifestyle that allows it. So play by post lets you play on your schedule. I have a couple of beta test players, for example, that have young kids, and it's hard for them to get to a game. They're in one of my games, one of my ongoing campaigns, but carving out time during the week to play with young children can be a challenge. Or, if your job, you have a non-standard schedule, or as far as that goes, if you live on the opposite side of the world, or an inconvenient location, time-wise, in terms of finding a DM. See, that flexibility. You can post on your lunch break, late at night. You can do it when you have insomnia. You can do it while you're waiting for your coffee to brew. You don't have to worry about everybody's schedules matching up. Games aren't canceled on Play by Post ever. Uh, yeah, sometimes a player or even the DM might miss a day or two for life events, but the game goes on. Next thing that it offers, and I sort of hinted at this a minute ago, thoughtful role play. Again, Play by Post encourages thoughtful responses and gives you time to focus on how your character would actually act. Rich character development, intricate backstories, memorable interactions, and memorable interactions that are recorded for posterity in the text that you've written. It's also a great opportunity for world building. Collaboratively, we build the world together in a play-by-post game. As the DM, I've got pieces that I bring in and I say, this is what this is like. But I run my games, my play-by-post is open world, which means you can go anywhere and do anything. And even if that means I haven't mapped out something that you want to go see, I only have one line that says the Mist Spire Peaks are the home of Zerenderos, the ancient white dragon. You can go there, and I just have a single line, but we can go there together. We'll build that as we go. Something I really pride myself, and it's not my doing, so it's maybe I shouldn't pride myself. Something I'm very happy about. I've built a community in my Discord server of folk that are kind and inclusive and funny as hell, and who just enjoy talking about D&D and about life and sharing memes and pictures of their pets, and they wish each other happy birthdays, and we talk about music and film and art. And Play by Post takes that to another level. It helps to foster that sense of community. Your fellow adventurers, you're no longer thinking of them just once a week. When you play with them, you're thinking about them every day in some ways. And so the other thing it does, it's low pressure, right? In my games, and I'll talk about the sort of the nuts and bolts of how it works here in a minute. Jason, how are you? Yes. I'll add that one too. I like that. Good call. Low pressure, right? You're not put on the spot. You don't have to perform an accent. You can write it. You don't have to think on your feet. You can, see what happens to your character. If you can post, every other day or so is great. I have some beta players who've been posting, many times a day. As a DM, I'll post a certain number minimum times a day. Sometimes it'll be a lot more. And occasionally, if something's going on, it might be less. But you have the opportunity really to play in a no pressure situation. Jason adds number 6. No need to take notes. It's there for posterity and reference. All right. So let's look a little bit at what that looks like. So let's go down. So you'll see here on the left, we have my City of Shards is the campaign setting. And so this is the City of Shards play by post. And I have all the instructions, and I have the safety tools that we use, the consent in gaming checklist, and I collate those and I make it clear to everybody that these particular topics or whatever aren't going to be part of our games, because I want everybody to feel included, and I want you to feel safe, and I want you to feel comfortable. And so I give you the opportunity to fill out that form and say, hey, these are the areas. And then beyond that, if there are content concerns, you can communicate those to me, and they can be addressed. So let me talk about the differences, I think, here between play-by-post and live game. First of all, pacing. Games are asynchronous, which means obviously not one moment after another. They're one post after another. That can mean a slower pace. Combat, for example, and this is part of the reason that play-by-post tends to be more role play and exploration intensive. And combat can take a week for a combat. They're not terribly combat heavy comparatively to like one of my arena based games or the monthly one shots that I do for charity. Those are a single combat with sort of just a story framework, which is kind of the way D&D was in the 70s and into the 80s. This is more immersive. You communicate in writing as opposed to verbal. That's different. Duration. A campaign, there's no session duration, right? Because you log in whenever you want. Record keeping, Jason mentioned that. Obviously, you have a record of the game. Accessibility. If you can't meet in person, right? It's available as an option. And then I've got our channels set up to separate the meta or the out of character activity from the in character stuff. So if I look, for example, at the 11th Eye Tavern, I can look through here and I can see a narrative section that tells me about walking into the tavern and what we see. And then we see Clyde. Clyde steps into the tavern and unobtrusively moves to the bar and speaks to Bethany, the barkeep. Hello, I'm kind of new in town, looking for a job. Do you need a cook? I have no idea if Clyde sounds like that, but we're going to go with it for now. And then Bethany, well, bless your heart, she drawls, telekinetically wiping down the counter with a rag. Did I mention Bethany is a beholder? An eye stalk moves in a circular motion as the rag sops up some spilled ale. Her single center eye narrows as she sizes up the plasmoid monk. Cooking, huh? Well, darling, I suppose that depends. You know how to fry up withering wings so they're nice and crispy but not too burnt? What's your specialty? Maybe we'll have a spot for you. Either way, you're welcome to the 11th Eye Tavern. And the conversation goes on, and a gnome with a disheveled shock of white hair and untamed beard enters in, and eventually Stewie, the kobold, enters in, and because she hears the others talking about Stu, she comes in, a voice comes in from somewhere near the floor, says, Stu? And then the player writes, a kobold scrambles around trying to figure out how to get up on the bar stools, ignoring any stools that are an appropriate size. She attempts to stack a box and a cauldron on a stool and attempts to clamber up. And so then the player has rolled a dexterity check, and they got an 8. Now the player, without even me having to tell them that was probably not a success, assumed it wasn't. And so she says, Stewie rolled an 8, even with modifier. She tumbles off the contraption, but doesn't take any serious harm. Soft draconic cursing can be heard near the floor. A few moments later, she reappears with the cauldron upside down on her head, standing on the stool on her tiptoes to see over the counter. And so, you see that it says Stewie made a dexterity check. We have technology called Avre that you can make your dice rolls right from your D&D Beyond character sheet. And if you join this campaign, when you join the campaign, you have access to my D&D Beyond campaign. What that means is you have access to the Legendary Bundle. For as long as you're in a game with me, you have access to every book that D&D has published on D&D Beyond, and even some of the third-party options. And you can use them to make your character, but you can actually, on your D&D Beyond character sheet, you roll. The player, Corey, went to her D&D character sheet, D&D Beyond, and clicked dexterity check, and it rolled into the Discord. And we have a separate channel this was in the early beta testing. We have a separate channel where it would normally appear, which is in the dice rolls. And so I go into the dice rolls channel and I can see all the different rolls that the characters have been making. And I can see, Zoru, the Leonin, casts shield and then attacks with a great sword and casts booming blade and all these things. And those are all happening because they clicked on their D&D Beyond character sheet. You don't have to know any coding. There are options for coding, commands, not really coding, that you can use in Discord with Avre. And for those of you that are tech savvy, that's available. But for those who aren't, I want you to feel comfortable. And if you can click on your D&D Beyond character sheet on the right spot, you can do the rolls. You don't have to know all those extra commands unless you're into them. Then I have a channel for chat, just out of character. Hey, we're just talking about, hey, how's it going? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Right? And so it's abstracted. There's no during game side chatter to distract you, right? Because it's segmented into its own section. And then I put some lore about the city that it takes place in. For example, the various Kalnor's a mountain city with 7 concentric rings, working from the 7th ring, the Great Bazaar, all the way up through the Tangle, the Barracks, the Hearth, the Sage's Terrace, the Seat of Power, and then finally to the Monastery. And I describe them all, each a little bit. And then I talk about some of the NPCs, and these are references that are here for you during the game that you can look at. And so I can learn about Bethany, right? I can leave a little description of her and the 11th eye and a picture even. And then for those that are ready to go out and adventure, you spent enough time in the tavern or walking through the city, you can check out the Adventuring Guild notice board. And so for right now, for example, there are 4 different notices, and individuals or groups can pick a quest. And so, for example, for one of these, let's look at Bloody Murder. It says, my husband Jeremy was murdered in broad daylight, and the investigation fizzled after a few days. To spite the inept and corrupt City Watch, I'm offering a sizable bounty for the apprehension of the murderer. Meet me in the Lost Horseshoe Tavern on Weymouth Street in the Hearth, and we will talk about business. Ask for Teresa. And so one or more characters can say, hey, that sounds like it pays 100 gold. We should check into this. If it's just an individual that sees it, he can go into the 11th Eye Tavern and say, hey, I'm looking for some other brave adventurers to look into a murder. Who's with me? An adventuring party can be anywhere from a size of 1 character up to as many as 10 or 12. The combat, for example, when a combat does break out, takes about the same amount of time because the posting frequency, right, that the DM responds is going to be the same amount of time. As long as everybody is making their quote unquote minimum post every other day, it doesn't matter if it's 1 character or 10 on an adventure, which is kind of cool. That harkens back a little bit to the old days of D&D. Those of you that were around in the 70s and 80s, or who still play some of the older editions, basic D&D, BECMI, they call it, with the expert set and so on. You could play a dozen characters. You could have a dozen players, and it would still be just as enjoyable and smooth in some ways. And then we have specific seats specific channels for scenes. So they've gone out into the street, and they come out into the street and they see a building that seems to have appeared out of nowhere, and a shingle above the door simply says deals, and they decide as a group, there's 4 of them, they decide, do we want to go in, do we not? And one of them says, I'm going to wait here, see if anything happens. And the others say, I'm going to head this direction to go buy this thing I wanted to buy. So it's very dynamic. And this idea of not splitting the party, sort of that happens in tabletop D&D, isn't as much of a rule. I mean, unless you're in a dungeon, don't split the party or whatever. But like in the city, do your own thing. So yeah, that's kind of the setup for it. What else can I tell you about it? I also have a spot for characters to make journal entries, for example. Players can put in their own picture of their character and write a diary of sorts, basically. And that's there for you, but it's if you want to be there to share with other folk. All right, so that's a little bit about gameplay. Let me talk about the setting, and then I'll tell you how to get signed up. So, Kalmnor, as I mentioned, a city, 7 concentric rings from the 7th, the Grand Bazaar, all the way up to the top, the Monastery at the first ring. And the 7th, of course, is called the Great Bazaar because it's the hub of commerce for the city, and it encompasses the entire base of the mountain, all the way out to the walls, the 150-foot tall walls that surround the city of Kalmnor. On the opposite, on the east side of the city, there is, of course, Callum Harbor, which and with the adjacent dock wards. So that's not walled off, but there are floating defenses out in the harbor that prevent invasion. You'll meet interesting NPCs like Bethany, like Lady Emiriel, the High Magus. Yes, Corey, always split the party. That is correct. Jason, yes, I know you are very excited about having beta, and I'm so glad to have you. And let me stop for a minute and thank my beta folks that did the beta work. Been very helpful, and I'm continuing to make improvements based on their suggestions. Yeah, so there are all sorts of things you can do, right? And NPCs to meet, from Lady Emiriel to Duke Eddington to Lyle, the crime boss. Lyle, who was actually a character in one of my campaigns 2 years ago, played by a player who is now playing a character by the name of Chapa. Lyle now controls the entire crime world in Kalimdor. And in this setting, it's canon as well. And what your characters do is canon. It will change the world. This is a shared world setting. It's not mine. The world has been assembled by, I sort of edit and catalog and curate the details of this setting, but there have been over 30, between 30 and 40 folk that have contributed lore and design. And that's not even counting the characters that have gone down in history in this campaign setting. Okay, so let's talk. How do we do this? How do we get involved? So this is my job. It is a paid situation. Let's look at, so if you are in my Discord, that's the first and easiest way to sign up. Go into my Discord, discord.dmbobyo.com. It will automatically allow you to join. Once you are in my Discord, you'll scroll all the way up. Well, obviously it says happening now is Project Shardfall. That won't be there later on. And you'll see at the top, you'll have different channel names because obviously it's my server, but one you'll have is called Server Shop. You'll click on it. You'll go right here and you'll hit subscribe. Now, if you are on an Apple device, do yourself a favor and navigate from a desktop computer of some sort. Apple charges an additional fee. So if you were to sign up for the monthly cost for the game on your Apple device, you're going to pay about $10 more. Okay, so just be aware of that. And one thing at a time. I also do provide a free 7-day trial. When you sign up, you won't be billed right away, and you can play for 7 days. If you don't like it, you can leave. Totally fine. And no offense, I'm not gonna hurt my feelings. The other way you can, and that is a monthly billing. The other way you can do it is by going to startplaying.games to my listings, and it's just startplaying.games/GM/DM Bob Yo. And the reason that you would do this would be potentially because you want to pay weekly. You don't want to pay every month. You want to split it up. So you go to my games, you find one of these listings. It doesn't matter which City of Shards listing you find. I have them listed on different days so that you can pick what day you want to be billed. You pick one and you go in and hit join campaign. And if you don't have an account on Start Playing already, find someone who does, have them give you the referral link so you can get $10 of credit, and so will they. But you sign up there and you'll be billed weekly. And that way, you know. Now, I don't do the free 1-week trial with Start Playing. I will also mention real quick, you will have noticed the cost on Start Playing versus the cost on Discord is listed as slightly higher. The Discord price should be listed at $39.99 as opposed to, and the 99s aren't my fault. Discord makes you pick from a list and they're all 99s. It should be $39.99 instead of $44.99. So I'm going to, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go in and fix that. So if you're going to sign up, wait until immediately after this, I don't know, what do you call it? What am I doing here? After this announcement, I guess. but it's sign up and start playing if you'd prefer. And which they're really two separate products, right? One is a month in my play-by-post Discord server, and then the product I'm going to start playing is a week in my play-by-post Discord server. All right, so all right, I've got time for questions. If anybody watching has any questions, please type them in. I will be glad to answer. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes for that to happen. And meanwhile, I want to give a special shout out to some folks. In particular, I would like to thank the folks at Dreams Gone's Horde. And I'm going to post this in my Discord. So if you aren't in my Discord, you can join, go to my Just Chatting. If you are, then you'll see it here in a little while. And I want to thank Dreams, who is one of the DMs on Start Playing, as well as Dreams play-by-post group. They allowed me to watch for a couple of weeks and to learn, and it's just been an amazing experience. So thank you, Dreams. All right, anybody has questions? Hit me up anytime. Discord, DM Bob Yo. Facebook, DM Bob Yo. YouTube, at DM Bob Yo. Twitter, DM Bob Yo, but I don't use Twitter a whole lot. So try one of the other ones if you can. Email DM Bob Yo at bob@dmbobyo. Sorry, bob@dmbobyo.com. All right, that's all I got for tonight. As soon as I'm logging off here, I'm going to set that rate in Discord, and you can start signing up. I have already 5 beta players in that are continuing. So the moment you join, you will have other players to interact with. So get after it. Send me your questions, whatever. And until we meet again, may your journey be grand, your adventures vast, and your tale